Hello there, my dear adventurers. It's your host, and welcome back to another evening of shared stories and mysteries. Tonight, we're diving deep into the world of Stranger Things and all the incredible theories swirling around the fifth and final season. Now, if you've been following this show since it first dropped back in 2016, you know just how rich the mythology has become, how many questions still linger in the shadows of Hawkins, Indiana. And with the final chapter arriving in 3 parts this autumn, starting November 26th, the speculation has reached absolutely fever pitch levels across fan communities everywhere. I've spent countless hours diving into Reddit forums, YouTube theory videos, cast interviews, and every single piece of promotional material Netflix has released. And I have to say, the theories people are coming up with are absolutely fascinating. Some are heartbreaking, some are wild beyond belief, and some actually make so much sense that you wonder if the Duffer Brothers themselves planted the clues deliberately. So tonight, we're going to explore every major theory I can pack into this video. We'll talk about what's really happening with the Upside Down, whether Vecna is truly the ultimate villain or just another pawn, Will Byers' potential hidden powers, the heartbreaking character death predictions, Max's fate while she's trapped in that coma, time travel possibilities, and so much more. If you enjoy what I do here and want to support the channel, consider checking out my Patreon, linked in the description. But for now, grab your coziest blanket, settle in somewhere comfortable, and let's begin our journey into the mysteries of Stranger Things, Season 5. Horus, the final battle is coming and nothing will be the same. So before we dive into specific theories, let's set the stage for what we actually know about Season 5. Filming wrapped in December 2024 after a full year of production, and the cast has been pretty emotional about saying goodbye to these characters they've lived with for nearly a decade. The season consists of 8 episodes, which is fewer than previous seasons. But here's the thing. These episodes are reportedly much longer. Maya Hawke described them as essentially 8 movies, and we know the finale is going to be feature length, possibly running 2 to 2.5 hours. The season picks up in the fall of 1987, which means there's been a time jump of about 1.5 years since the end of Season 4. That's significant because Hawkins has been fundamentally changed. The massive gates that Vecna opened at the end of Season 4 have merged into one enormous rift, tearing through the town. The Upside Down is actively bleeding into our reality, ash falling from the sky, those creeping vines spreading everywhere, and the entire town is now under military quarantine. The government has placed Hawkins under lockdown with cameras everywhere and restricted movement for residents. It's basically martial law. And Eleven is being hunted by the government again, which forces her back into hiding. The synopsis Netflix released tells us that our heroes are united by a single goal: to find and kill Vecna. But his whereabouts are completely unknown. He's vanished somewhere in the Upside Down, recovering from his injuries and planning something even more catastrophic than what we saw in Season 4. The Duffer Brothers have been clear that Season 5 will answer all the major mysteries they've been building since Season 1. They wrote a 25-page document for Netflix back when they were pitching the show that explained the full mythology of the Upside Down, and they've been saving some of those biggest reveals specifically for this final season. Ross Duffer said in interviews that the remaining questions answered in that document were deliberately punted to season 5, and that those reveals are really going to affect what the season is about. We also know that Will Byers is going to be absolutely central to the season. The Duffer brothers have said explicitly that because the story really began with Will's disappearance, it needs to end with him playing a major role. That's huge because Will has been somewhat sidelined in recent seasons, but his connection to the Upside Down, his ability to sense Vecna, and his history with the Mind Flayer all suggest he's going to be crucial to whatever happens in the finale. And then there's the episode titles, which Netflix revealed on Stranger Things Day. They're called The Crawl, The Vanishing of, The Turnbow Trap, Sorcerer, Shock Jock, Escape from Camazotz, The Bridge, and The Right Side Up. Each of these titles has sparked its own wave of theories. The Vanishing of clearly references the series premiere, The Vanishing of Will Byers, but the name is censored in promotional materials, leading fans to speculate about who or what is vanishing this time. Many think it could be Holly Wheeler, Nancy and Mike's younger sister, who's been recast with a teenage actress for season 5 and is apparently taking on a much bigger role. Will Byers and the Powers. He might be hiding. Let's talk about one of the most compelling theory threads running through the fandom right now, and that's the idea that Will Byers has powers he doesn't even know about yet. Now, this isn't just wild speculation. There's actually quite a bit of evidence scattered throughout the series that suggests Will might be more than just a regular kid who happened to survive a week in the Upside Down. Think back to season 1. Will managed to survive in the Upside Down for 7 full days while hiding from a Demogorgon. Every other victim of the Demogorgon died within hours. Barb was taken and killed almost immediately. The hunters and other people who disappeared didn't last long at all. But Will, this small 12-year-old kid, somehow evaded the monster, communicated with his mother through Christmas lights, and stayed alive in one of the most hostile environments imaginable. How did he do that? Some fans theorize that Will subconsciously used latent psychic abilities to survive. He could manipulate electronics to talk to Joyce, which is exactly the kind of thing Eleven can do with her powers. He created a sort of safe haven for himself in Castle Byers, his makeshift fort in the Upside Down. And there's this persistent theory that Will's abilities might have actually shaped part of the Upside Down itself. Here's where it gets really interesting. In season 4, we learned that the Upside Down is frozen in time on November 6th, 1983. That's the exact day Will disappeared. The dimension isn't just a dark mirror of Hawkins, it's specifically Hawkins as it existed on that one particular date. Nancy discovered this when she went into the Upside Down and found her bedroom exactly as it was in 1983, with old posters and decorations she'd changed years ago. So why is the Upside Down stuck on that specific date? One theory suggests that when Will was taken there, his fear and trauma were so intense that he inadvertently imprinted Hawkins onto the dimension. He was scared, lost, and desperate to go home. His psychic abilities, which he didn't know he had, reached out and pulled familiar surroundings from his memory into the Upside Down, creating a twisted version of home. This would explain why it's specifically Hawkins from that date, because that's what Will knew. That's what he was trying to get back to. The Season 5 trailer seems to support this theory in some interesting ways. We see a flashback scene showing Vecna in the upside-down version of Hawkins' library with a Demogorgon, and there's a close-up shot of Vecna's hand reaching towards something on the ground. Fans analyzing every frame think that might be Will from Season 1, right after the Demogorgon finally caught him. If that's true, it suggests Vecna was directly involved in Will's abduction from the very beginning. And here's something the Duffer Brothers said in an interview that's fueling these theories. They asked rhetorically, why did the Demogorgon take Will instead of killing him immediately, like it did with Barb? That question implies there was a specific reason. Vecna might have sensed Will's latent abilities and wanted him for some purpose. Maybe he needed Will to shape the Upside Down. Maybe he saw potential in Will as a vessel for the Mind Flayer. Or maybe he recognized something in Will that made him valuable. There's also evidence from Season 2 that supports the power theory. When Will was possessed by the Mind Flayer, he demonstrated this ability to sense the entire hive mind of the Upside Down. He knew where the Demodogs were going, what the Mind Flayer wanted, and he could feel when the tunnels were being burned. That connection went both ways. Will wasn't just being used as a spy. He was actually linked into something much deeper. And then in Seasons 3 and 4, Will retains this ability to sense when the Upside Down is active or when Vecna is near. He gets this tingling feeling on the back of his neck, like a sixth sense. In the Season 5 trailer, there's a powerful shot of Will with his hand on a tree in the Upside Down, and what looks like fire or energy emanating from his hands. He's also shown screaming run, run, which suggests his sensing abilities are going to be even more pronounced now that the barriers between dimensions have collapsed. Some fans have taken this theory even further, suggesting that Will might have a suppressor chip in his neck, like the one that was used on Henry Creel when he was Subject 1 at Hawkins' lab. The theory goes that Brenner or someone else in the government discovered Will had abilities and secretly implanted a chip to keep those powers dormant. This would explain why Will's never demonstrated overt telekinetic abilities, like 11, even though all the circumstantial evidence suggests he should have them. If the chip exists, Season 5 might be when it gets removed or damaged, allowing Will's true abilities to emerge. Imagine if Will suddenly develops powers that rival or even exceed 11's, and he and his adopted sister team up to take down Vecna together. That would be such a satisfying full circle moment. The boy who started everything by disappearing becomes the key to ending everything by embracing abilities he never knew he had. There's a darker version of this theory too. Some fans worry that Vecna is going to use Will as a vessel to regain a human form or to enter our dimension more completely. In the trailer, Vecna says directly to Will, "You're going to help me one last time." That's chilling. Will might not have a choice in the matter. His connection to the Upside Down could be exploited by Vecna to merge the dimensions permanently or to take over Will's body. But I think, or at least I hope, that Will's story is going to be about agency and choice. He's been a victim for so long. He was taken in Season 1. He was possessed in Season 2. He's struggled with his identity and his feelings in Seasons 3 and 4. Season 5 needs to be where Will finally takes control of his own narrative, where he uses whatever abilities he has, not because Vecna forces him to, but because he chooses to protect the people he loves. Noah Schnapp, the actor who plays Will, has said that Season 5 brings his character's arc full circle, and that Will have a significant role in the final battle. The Duffer Brothers have echoed this, saying that Will is going to be a big part and focus of the final season. So whether he has dormant powers, hidden abilities, or just his unique connection to sense the Upside Down, Will Byers is going to be absolutely crucial to how this story ends. Sturster's the true nature of the Upside Down will finally be revealed. One of the biggest promises the Duffer Brothers have made about Season 5 is that we're finally going to understand what the Upside Down actually is. This parallel dimension has been the source of every problem in Hawkins since 1983. But its true nature has remained frustratingly mysterious. We know it exists, we know it's dangerous, we know it's connected to Vecna, but we don't really understand what it is or where it came from. Here's what we learned in Season 4 that changed everything. The Upside Down as we know it, that dark mirror of Hawkins frozen in November the 1983, wasn't always that way. When Henry Creel was banished there by Eleven in 1979, he landed in something called Dimension X, which was a much more primordial realm. It was described as a realm unspoiled by mankind, full of strange creatures and that storm of dark particles that would become the Mind Flayer. Henry used his psychic abilities to reshape those particles into the spider, like form of the Mind Flayer, and took control of the dimension's hive mind. But here's the key question. When Eleven opened the gate in 1983 and made contact with the Demogorgon, did she create the Upside Down as we know it, or did she just connect to something that already existed? The most popular theory is that Eleven's actions in 1983 fundamentally changed Dimension X. When she touched the Demogorgon with her mind, her powers reached across dimensions and essentially copy-pasted Hawkins onto Dimension X, creating the Upside Down we've been seeing ever since. This would explain why it's frozen on that specific date. It's not that time stopped in the Upside Down. It's that the dimension was created at that moment, formed from Eleven's psychic imprint of Hawkins as it existed on November 6th, 1983. But there's a competing theory that's equally compelling. Maybe Eleven didn't create the Upside Down at all. Maybe she just opened a door to something that was always there, waiting. This version suggests that Upside Down is an ancient dimension that has always existed parallel to ours, and when Eleven made contact with it, the dimension sort of imprinted Hawkins as a way of understanding or targeting our world. Some fans have theorized that the Upside Down is actually alive, a sentient dimension with its own form of consciousness. The vines act like a nervous system, sharing information across the entire realm. When something gets injured in one place, the whole network feels it. The particles in the air respond to intrusions. And most importantly, the dimension seems to have agency. It spreads, it consumes, it adapts. Maybe the Upside Down isn't just a place where monsters live. Maybe the Upside Down itself is the monster. This theory often ties into speculation about the Mind Flayer's true nature. In Season 4, Vecna claims he created the Mind Flayer, that he shaped it from the particles in Dimension X. But what if he's wrong? What if he's lying to himself? What if the Mind Flayer was always there, and it's actually been manipulating Henry since he was a child? There's a scene in Season 4 where young Henry Creel sees a spider in his house and becomes fascinated by it. Some fans think that wasn't just a spider. That was the Mind Flayer's influence, reaching across dimensions, planting ideas in Henry's mind, grooming him to eventually become Vecna. If that's true, then the Mind Flayer is the real puppet master, and Vecna is just another pawn in its game to invade our dimension. This would be such a great twist because it would mean defeating Vecna isn't enough. Even if our heroes kill him, the Mind Flayer is still out there in Dimension X, waiting for another opportunity to break through. The final battle might not be about destroying Vecna. It might be about sealing the dimensions apart permanently so the Mind Flayer can never reach our world again. There's also this fascinating theory about what Camazotz means. That's the title of Episode 6, Escape from Camazotz. Now, in Dungeons & Dragons lore, Camazotz is a bat god associated with the underworld, disease, and plague. Given that Vecna uses Demobats as his minions, that connection makes sense. But Camazotz is also the name of a planet in Madeleine L'Engle's novel, A Wrinkle in Time. In that book, Camazotz is a planet that's been taken over by a malevolent entity called the Black Thing, which controls everyone through a form of mind control. The protagonists have to travel to Camazotz to rescue someone who's been trapped there. Sound familiar? Fans think Camazotz in Stranger Things might be a deeper layer of the Upside Down, or perhaps even a third dimension entirely, where Vecna is hiding, or where Max's consciousness is being held prisoner. If Camazotz is introduced as a new location, it could reframe our entire understanding of the cosmology in Stranger Things. Maybe there aren't just two dimensions, ours and the Upside Down. Maybe there are multiple dimensions, layers of reality stacked on top of each other, and the Upside Down is just one layer in between. Vecna might be trying to collapse all these dimensions into one, creating a nightmare reality where he rules supreme. The Duffer Brothers have promised that the Upside Down's origins and true nature will be fully explained in Season 5. They've been sitting on these answers for years, planning them out since the very beginning. When we finally get those revelations, they're going to recontextualize everything we've seen in previous seasons. Every monster, every death, every sacrifice is going to take on new meaning once we understand what the Upside Down really is. I think the explanation is going to be both more fantastical and more tragic than we expect. The Upside Down might be a dimension of trauma and pain given form, shaped by psychic powers like Eleven's and Will's and Henry's. It's a place where negative emotions and dark thoughts become real, where nightmares walk and breathe. And the only way to truly defeat it might be for our heroes to confront not just the monsters in the Upside Down, but the darkness within themselves. Max Mayfield's fate and the fight for her soul. Let's talk about one of the most heartbreaking cliffhangers from Season 4. Max Mayfield is in a coma, her body alive, but her consciousness seemingly gone. At the end of Season 4, Vecna broke her bones, blinded her, and essentially killed her. Her heart stopped for over a minute, but Eleven, using powers we've never seen before, somehow brought Max back. Only she didn't really come all the way back. Her body is breathing, but when Eleven searches for Max in the void, that black psychic space where Eleven normally finds people, Max isn't there. She's just gone. So where is Max? And what does Season 5 have in store for her? Those questions have generated some of the most emotional and compelling theories in the fandom. Everyone loves Max, and the idea that her story might end in tragedy is almost too much to bear. But we also know that Stranger Things doesn't shy away from dark endings, and Max's situation is about as dark as it gets. The prevailing theory is that Max's consciousness is being held prisoner inside Vecna. When he kills his victims, he doesn't just murder them, he consumes them. He takes their memories, their trauma, their very essence, and absorbs it into himself. That's what makes him stronger. In Season 4, Vecna told Eleven that his victims aren't gone, they're right here with me, and he tapped his head. So Max might be trapped inside Vecna's mind, along with all his other victims, experiencing some kind of living nightmare. If that's true, then rescuing Max becomes a key part of defeating Vecna. Eleven and the others might have to enter Vecna's mind somehow, navigate through his consciousness, and pull Max out before they can destroy him. This theory is supported by set reports and trailer footage showing that Max remains in her hospital bed for at least half of Season 5. Caleb McLaughlin, who plays Lucas, described a scene where he and Robin are visiting Max in an elevator, suggesting she's still comatose midway through the season. But the Duffer Brothers have made it clear that Max being in this state isn't just a cliffhanger for shock value. Ross Duffer told Netflix that Max's coma is incredibly relevant to the plot of Season 5 and that it's going to have a major effect on what happens. He said, quote, "It's not a cheat, it's incredibly relevant to Season 5. That suggests Max's condition is somehow key to the larger story, not just a tragic subplot. There's a beautiful theory floating around that connects Max's journey to Kate Bush's album Hounds of Love, specifically the second half called The Ninth Wave. See, in Season 4, running up that hill from that album saved Max from Vecna's curse. Music became her lifeline, her connection to happy memories and the people she loves. But The Ninth Wave is a concept suite about a woman drowning in the ocean, fighting to stay alive, experiencing visions and dreams as she struggles. The songs on The Ninth Wave eerily mirror Max's situation, and Dream of Sheep describes someone trying to stay awake while slipping away, wanting to hear friendly voices. Under Ice depicts someone trapped beneath frozen water, visible but unreachable, which perfectly describes Max's body being alive, while her consciousness is somewhere else. Waking the Witch and Watching You Without Me both deal with being pulled between worlds and trying to reach loved ones. If the Duffer Brothers are intentionally using The Ninth Wave as a narrative template for Max's Season 5 arc, it suggests she's going to experience a kind of journey through her subconscious or through Vecna's mind before she can finally wake up. And the final song on The Ninth Wave is called The Morning Fog, where the protagonist finally washes up on shore and is reunited with loved ones. That would be such a hopeful ending for Max, to fight her way back from the brink and wake up to see Lucas and her friends again. But there's a darker possibility. Some fans think Max might wake up, but be fundamentally changed by the experience. She was clinically dead for over a minute. Her bones were broken. Her sight was taken. Even if 11 brings her consciousness back, Max might be disabled, dealing with severe trauma, struggling with what she experienced inside Vecna. The show has never shied away from depicting the lasting effects of trauma. Will still feels the upside down, even years after his possession. Hopper has PTSD from his time in the Russian prison. Max's recovery might not be a miraculous healing. It might be a difficult, painful process of learning to live with what happened to her. Sadie Sink, the actress who plays Max, has hinted that Max's story won't have a simple happy ending. She told various outlets that Max is definitely not the way she once was, but that there's still a glimmer of hope, and that Max has a lot of rage and a lot of fight in her for season 5. That suggests Max is going to be active in the story somehow, even if she spends part of the season comatose. There's also this theory that Max could become something like Cass from Dungeons & Dragons. Cass was Vecna's lieutenant who eventually betrayed and killed him. In the game, Cass becomes a half-vampire after being mortally wounded. Some fans speculated this storyline would apply to Eddie Munson coming back, but it could also work for Max. She died. She was brought back by 11, and she's been inside Vecna's mind. Maybe she comes back with a connection to him that she can exploit, becoming the key to his defeat. The season 5 trailer shows Lucas carrying Max out of a hospital with a demodog approaching, which confirms she won't be in that bed for the entire season. At some point, she's mobile again, though we don't know if she's awake or if Lucas is evacuating her unconscious body. But the fact that Max is physically in danger means the stakes remain incredibly high for her. I think Max's story is going to be about agency and choice, similar to Will's arc. She's been a victim of circumstance and trauma for so long. Her stepbrother abused her family. Billy died saving everyone. She fell into depression, and then Vecna literally killed her. Season 5 needs to give Max a chance to fight back, to reclaim her own story, to make a choice that defines who she is. Whether that choice is fighting from inside Vecna's mind, waking up with new knowledge that helps defeat him, or sacrificing something to save her friends, Max deserves to be more than just a victim in the finale. Who will die in the final battle? This is the question everyone's asking and dreading in equal measure. Who won't make it out of season 5 alive? Stranger Things has always been somewhat gentle with main character deaths compared to other shows. Sure, we've lost Bob Newby, Alexei, Eddie Munson, and Barb, but those were supporting characters. The core group, the kids and adults who've been there since season 1, have all survived, often barely. But season 5 is different. It's the final season, the end game. The Duffer Brothers have said explicitly that not everyone will make it out alive. They've called it their darkest season and said the ending will be emotionally devastating. Cast members have described the final table read as incredibly emotional, with everyone in tears. So we need to prepare ourselves. Main characters are going to die, and it's going to hurt. Let's start with the most talked about death prediction, Steve Harrington. Oh, this one is painful because Steve has become one of the most beloved characters on the show. He started as a bit of a jerk in season 1, the popular kid who was kind of a bully. But over the seasons, he's transformed into this protective, selfless hero who constantly puts himself in danger to save the kids. His character arc is essentially complete. He's redeemed himself, he's found purpose, and he's become the group's designated older brother and protector. And that's exactly why so many fans think Steve is going to die. His death would be meaningful, it would hurt, and it would represent the ultimate sacrifice from someone who started the series thinking only about himself. The Season 5 trailer has this shot of Dustin hugging Steve that people are reading as incredibly ominous. Dustin and Steve have one of the purest friendships in the show. If Steve dies saving Dustin or the others, it would be absolutely heartbreaking but thematically appropriate. Joe Keery, the actor who plays Steve, has been very emotional in interviews about finishing the show. He's talked about how Steve's journey has meant everything to him, but he's also been cagey about whether Steve survives, which isn't a great sign. The Duffer Brothers love Steve as much as the fans do, but that might make them more willing to give him a heroic death rather than a safe ending. Then there's Hopper. David Harbour's character already had a fake-out death in Season 3, and they brought him back for Season 4. Would the Duffers do it again? Would they actually kill Hopper for real this time? It's possible. Hopper's entire arc has been about overcoming grief, finding new purpose after losing his daughter Sarah, and building a family with Joyce and Eleven. His death protecting them would be tragic, but meaningful. However, I think Hopper survives. Killing him after faking his death once already would feel redundant. Plus, Joyce and Hopper deserve to finally be together after everything they've been through. The show has been building toward their happy ending for years, and taking that away in the final moments would be unnecessarily cruel. I think Hopper makes it through, though he might be injured or forced to make a difficult sacrifice that isn't his life. Will Byers is another character at serious risk. The series began with his disappearance. Having it end with his death would create a tragic full circle. Will has been connected to the Upside Down since that first night. He's never fully escaped it. The tagline in the trailer, "You're going to help me one last time," seems directed at Will. If defeating Vecna requires someone with a connection to the Upside Down to sacrifice themselves, Will is the obvious candidate. Noah Schnapp has said that Will's arc comes full circle in Season 5, and that his role is really significant. That could mean he survives and finally breaks free from the Upside Down's influence, or it could mean he makes the ultimate sacrifice to close the gates forever. Given how much trauma Will has endured, I desperately want him to get a happy ending, but I'm genuinely worried the Duffers might go for tragedy instead. Eleven is the main character, and her death would be the biggest shock of all. But it's not impossible. Eleven has sacrificed herself multiple times already, lost her powers, fought impossible battles. She's the one who opened the first gate, and she might need to be the one who closes them permanently. Some theories suggest Eleven will have to give up her powers entirely to seal the dimensions, or that her life is somehow tied to the Upside Down's existence, meaning she can't survive without it. Millie Bobby Brown has been fairly successful outside Stranger Things with the Enola Holmes movies and other projects, which has led some fans to speculate that she's ready to move on from Eleven. But killing the main character in the finale would be incredibly bold, and I'm not sure the Duffers want to go quite that dark. I think 11 survives, but loses her powers, allowing her to finally be a normal girl, which has been her dream all along. Jonathan Byers is probably the safest bet if the Duffers want to kill a main character without destroying the audience. Jonathan has been somewhat sidelined in recent seasons. His storyline in Season 4 was arguably the weakest, and his death would have emotional impact without being devastating. He could die protecting Will or Nancy, giving his character a heroic ending. Nancy Wheeler probably survives because her character arc is about becoming an investigative journalist who exposes the truth. Killing her before she can tell the story of what really happened in Hawkins would undermine that arc. Plus, she's shown herself to be a capable fighter and survivor. Lucas, Dustin, Mike, and Erica probably all survive. Killing any of the core kids would be too dark, especially after everything they've been through. The show is fundamentally about friendship and coming of age, and wiping out the friend group would betray that core theme. One theory that's gained traction is that multiple supporting characters will die in quick succession during the final battle to raise the stakes and show that no one is safe. Characters like Murray, Vicky, Dr. K, the new character played by Linda Hamilton, and others who are important but not core to the group. This would allow the Duffers to have a high body count without killing beloved mains. The most likely scenario based on all the evidence and patterns from previous seasons is this. Steve dies heroically, probably saving Dustin or the kids. Will either dies or is permanently changed by his sacrifice. One or two supporting adults like Murray die during the battle. Everyone else survives, but with scars, trauma, and losses they'll carry forever. The ending will be bittersweet. They defeat Vecna and save Hawkins, but the cost is high and nothing will ever be the same. Vecna's true identity and the Mind Flayer debate. Let's dig into one of the biggest debates in the fandom. Is Vecna really the ultimate villain, or is he just a servant of something even more powerful? This question has divided fans ever since Season 4 revealed Vecna's backstory and his claim that he created the Mind Flayer. Here's what we learned. Henry Creel was born with psychic powers in the 1940s. He killed his family in 1959, was captured by Dr. Brenner, and became Subject 1 at Hawkins' lab. Years later, in 1979, he convinced 11 to remove his power suppressor, went on a rampage killing most of the other test subjects, and was banished by 11 to Dimension X. In that alien dimension, Henry encountered a storm of dark particles. According to his telling, he used his abilities to reshape those particles into the spider-like form of the Mind Flayer and took control of the entire hive mind of the Upside Down. He became Vecna, a being with god-like powers over that dimension. 4 years later, when 11 opened the gate in 1983, Vecna saw his opportunity to invade our world. That's the official story Season 4 gave us. Vecna is in control. The Mind Flayer is his creation, his weapon. He's been orchestrating everything from the beginning. But loads of fans don't believe it, and for good reason. First, there's the timeline issue. Henry Creel saw a spider as a child in the 1950s and became obsessed with it. He talked about how spiders were misunderstood predators, superior creatures. Then decades later, he supposedly shapes the Mind Flayer into a massive spider form. Is that just a coincidence? Or was that childhood spider actually the Mind Flayer's influence, reaching back through time, planting ideas in young Henry's mind, grooming him to become its vessel? Second, the Mind Flayer's behavior in seasons 2 and 3 felt very independent and intelligent. It wasn't just following orders. It possessed will to spy on Hawkins. It created an army of flayed humans and built a massive flesh monster. Its tactics were sophisticated and adaptive. If that was all just Vecna controlling it from the upside down, why did the Mind Flayer feel like such a distinct entity with its own personality and goals? Third, there's the question of power levels. The Mind Flayer in Season 3 was absolutely massive, controlling dozens of people simultaneously, creating that enormous spider monster. Vecna in Season 4, while powerful, seemed more limited. He could curse a few victims at a time, but had to concentrate to do it. If Vecna is supposedly controlling the Mind Flayer, shouldn't he demonstrate similar power levels? Why does the servant seem stronger than the master? These inconsistencies have led to a popular counter theory. The Mind Flayer is the real villain. It's an ancient cosmic entity that has existed for eons in Dimension X or some other realm. When young Henry Creel first encountered it through that spider, the Mind Flayer recognized his potential. It influenced him throughout his childhood, encouraged his darker impulses, waited for him to grow powerful enough to be useful. When 11 banished Henry to Dimension X, the Mind Flayer was waiting. It didn't let Henry reshape it. Instead, it reshaped Henry, transforming him into Vecna, creating a powerful human puppet it could use to bridge dimensions. Henry thinks he's in control, but he's deluding himself. The Mind Flayer has been pulling the strings all along. This theory actually makes the story more interesting because it means defeating Vecna won't be enough. Even if our heroes kill him, destroy his physical form, the Mind Flayer will still exist in Dimension X, ancient and patient, waiting for another opportunity to invade our world. The final battle might not be about destroying Vecna. It might be about finding a way to seal Dimension X away permanently so the Mind Flayer can never reach us again. There's also evidence from the Stranger Things stage play, The First Shadow, which serves as a prequel to the series. The play reveals more about Henry Creel's childhood and his early connection to the Upside Down. According to reports from people who've seen the play, it suggests the Mind Flayer's influence on Henry goes back even further than we thought, and that there are cosmic forces at work that predate both Henry and the Upside Down as we know it. Some fans have taken this even further, theorizing that there are multiple entities or layers to the Upside Down's hierarchy. Maybe the Mind Flayer isn't the top of the pyramid. Maybe it's serving something even more ancient and terrible, something from a realm beyond Dimension X. That would explain the title Camazotz for Episode 6. In A Wrinkle in Time, the black thing that controls Camazotz is itself serving an even greater evil. The Duffer Brothers love Dungeons and Dragons, and in D&D lore, there are cosmic horrors beyond mortal understanding, entities like the Far Realm or the Elder Evils that exist outside normal reality. They could be pulling from that mythology to create a final revelation that recontextualizes everything we thought we knew. My personal take is this. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. Vecna shaped the Mind Flayer, but the particles he shaped were already intelligent and malevolent. They had a will of their own, so when Henry thought he was controlling them, they were actually influencing him right back. It's a symbiotic relationship where both entities are using each other and neither is fully in control. This would explain why defeating Vecna requires more than just killing him. Our heroes will have to find a way to break the symbiosis, to separate Vecna from the Mind Flayer, and then deal with both threats individually. That's a much more interesting final battle than just punching the bad guy until he dies. Time travel, time loops, and the frozen upside down. One of the most debated theories revolves around time itself and whether Season 5 will involve time travel or time loops. The evidence for this theory comes from several different directions, but it all centers on one key fact. The Upside Down is frozen on November 6th, 1983. Why that specific date? And what does it mean for the show's endgame? Let's examine the clock imagery first. In Season 4, clocks became central to Vecna's methodology. His victims hear a grandfather clock chiming 4 times before he strikes. The clock appears in their visions, always showing the same time. When Nancy is cursed by Vecna, she sees the clock from the Creel house, the same clock that was there when Henry killed his family in the 1950s. Clocks represent time, obviously, and the Duffer Brothers don't do anything without reason. The constant emphasis on clocks, combined with the upside down being frozen in time, suggests time itself is going to be important to Season 5's resolution. Here's the basic time travel theory. The only way to truly defeat Vecna and seal the Upside Down forever is to prevent it from being created in the first place. Someone needs to go back to November 6th, 1983, and stop Eleven from making contact with the Demogorgon. If that never happens, the gate never opens, the Upside Down never forms, Vecna never gets his opportunity to invade, and Hawkins stays safe. But this creates an obvious paradox. If the gate never opens, then Will never disappears. The kids never meet Eleven. None of the events of the series ever happen. It would essentially erase the entire show from existence. That's a massive narrative risk, and most fans hope the Duffers don't take it. However, there are ways to do time travel without completely resetting everything. Maybe someone goes back but can only observe, not change things. They realize events had to unfold exactly as they did for some reason. Or maybe the timeline splits, creating an alternate reality where Hawkins never experienced the Upside Down, while our main characters remember the original timeline. The Duffer Brothers love Back to the Future, which they've referenced constantly throughout the series. That movie dealt with changing the past and the consequences that ripple forward. It would make sense for them to use similar themes in their finale, especially since Back to the Future is so tonally appropriate for Stranger Things 80s nostalgia. There's also the time loop theory. Some fans think Hawkins itself is caught in a repeating cycle, experiencing the same events over and over with slight variations. The Upside Down being frozen might indicate the loop's starting point. Season 5 could reveal that our characters have been through variations of this story multiple times, and they need to find a way to break the cycle. Evidence for the loop theory comes from those weird moments of deja vu throughout the series. Characters sometimes seem to echo each other across seasons. Story beats repeat with different characters. Joyce's Christmas Light alphabet wall in Season 1 mirrors Nancy's string and light map in Season 4. Will's possession in Season 2 parallels Max's curse in Season 4. Are these just narrative parallels, or are they hints at something more? Set leaks and production photos have shown actors in period-accurate 1980s costumes that don't match the established 1986 timeline where Season 4 ended. Now, these could just be flashbacks, which Stranger Things does frequently, but some fans think they might be evidence of time travel or alternate timelines being explored. There's a wilder version of the time theory that suggests the entire series is actually about Will being stuck in a time loop. That the real Will is still in the Upside Down from Season 1, and everything we've seen since then has been him experiencing different versions of reality as he tries to find a way out. I don't buy this theory at all, because it would undermine everything the show has built, but it's out there and people discuss it. I think time will be important to Season 5, but not through traditional time travel. Instead, I suspect it'll be about perception of time and breaking free from the past. Vecna's curse traps people in their worst memories, forcing them to relive trauma on an endless loop. That's a form of temporal prison. The heroes will need to break that pattern, both for individual victims like Max and for Hawkins as a whole. The Upside Down being frozen on November 6th might represent trauma frozen in time, a moment of horror preserved forever because no one has processed it or moved past it. Defeating Vecna might require our heroes to confront their own traumas, accept their pasts, and choose to move forward into the future rather than remaining stuck. Justus, the government conspiracy, and Hawkins' lab secrets. Let's talk about an aspect of Stranger Things that sometimes gets overshadowed by the supernatural elements, but has always been crucial to the story. The government conspiracy, Hawkins' lab, Dr. Brenner's experiments, and the role organizations like the Department of Energy and the military play in this universe. We know from previous seasons that Hawkins' lab was conducting MK Ultra-style experiments, starting probably in the 1950s or 60s. They were trying to create psychic weapons for the Cold War, people who could spy on Russians, read minds, move objects with thought. Dr. Brenner ran the program and used horrific methods to unlock abilities in children. But there's still so much we don't know. What happened to the other numbered subjects? We saw Subject 1, Henry Creel, we know 11. We met 8, Kaylee, briefly in Season 2, but there were at least 18 subjects that we know of. Are there survivors? Are there other facilities running similar programs? Did the government know about the Upside Down before 11 opened the gate? That last question is particularly important. Some fans theorize that Brenner knew about alternate dimensions all along, that his experiments weren't just about creating psychic soldiers. He was trying to explore and weaponize the Upside Down itself. The sensory deprivation tank was specifically designed to send subjects into other planes of existence. When 11 found the Demogorgon and opened the gate, Brenner wasn't surprised. He was excited, like this was the breakthrough he'd been working toward. If the government knew about the Upside Down before 1983, that changes everything. It means the entire series has been the result of their experiments succeeding, and it means there might be classified files, research data, informations about the Upside Down that could help our heroes in Season 5. We know Season 5 features increased military presence in Hawkins. The town is under quarantine with soldiers everywhere. The synopsis mentions that Hawkins is under military control and that, quote, the military is doing stuff in the Upside Down. That's terrifying. What are they doing in there? Are they trying to weaponize the creatures, study the dimension, find a way to use it for strategic advantage? There's a new character in Season 5, Dr. K, played by Linda Hamilton of Terminator fame. She's been described as hyper-intelligent and intimidating. Some fans speculate she's a government operative hunting 11, perhaps someone who worked with or for Brenner and wants to capture or study 11. Others think she might be the opposite, someone who wants to help but has information that's difficult to accept. Another theory involves Project Nina from Season 4. That was Brenner's program to help 11 regain her powers by reliving her trauma. But what if Nina wasn't just about 11? What if it was also Brenner's way of documenting every detail of her abilities, creating a blueprint that could be used to create more psychic weapons or to replicate her powers? The Montauk Project is the real-life conspiracy theory that inspired Stranger Things. It allegedly involved experiments in time travel, mind control, and contact with alien dimensions at Camp Hero on Long Island. The original title for Stranger Things was Montauk before it was changed. The Duffers clearly drew from those conspiracy theories, so it makes sense that Season 5 might delve deeper into the government conspiracy aspect. I think Season 5 will reveal that Hawkins Lab's secrets go much deeper than we realized. There might be other facilities, other children with powers, government programs that have been studying the Upside Down for decades, and that information will be crucial to defeating Vecna. Maybe Brenner left behind research that explains a weakness in the Mind Flayer. Maybe there are other powered individuals who can help 11. The conspiracy angle also provides a realistic obstacle for our heroes. Even if they defeat Vecna, they'll still have to deal with the government, trying to cover everything up, classify what happened, possibly capture and study anyone with powers. The ending might not be a simple happy victory. It might be our heroes having to fight for their freedom and their right to tell the truth about what really happened in Hawkins. The final battle structure and series ending. So how will it all end? What will the actual structure of the final battle be? The Duffer Brothers have promised a massive, epic conclusion that provides closure for every character while still delivering surprises. Based on everything we know, here's what I think the finale will look like. The season is 8 episodes released in 3 parts, 4 episodes on November 26th, 3 episodes on Christmas, and the finale episode on New Year's Eve. That structure itself is interesting because it means the finale stands alone, giving it space to breathe and be as long as it needs to be. The Duffer Brothers have confirmed they're directing the finale themselves and that it's feature length, probably around 2 to 2.5 hours. The early episodes will likely focus on the immediate aftermath of Season 4 and the worsening situation in Hawkins. The town is scarred by the rift. The military has taken over, people are evacuating, and our heroes are separated and dealing with trauma. Will is probably sensing Vecna constantly. 11 is in hiding. Max is still in her coma. Lucas is struggling to stay hopeful, Steve and the others are trying to keep the group together. The middle episodes will be about preparation and gathering forces. Our heroes will reunite, make a plan, probably discover some crucial information about the Upside Down, or Vecna, that changes everything. This is likely where Will's powers manifest, or where they figure out how to rescue Max's consciousness. There will be setbacks, probably one or two deaths of supporting characters, rising tension as Vecna's plan becomes clearer. The finale will be the massive battle everyone's been waiting for. Our heroes will split into groups, each with a specific mission. One group, probably including 11, Will, and maybe Mike, will confront Vecna directly in the Upside Down. Another group will work to close the gates or protect Hawkins from the spillover. A third group might try to rescue Max or take out the Mind Flayer's physical manifestations. The battle will have multiple phases. First, the physical fight with Demodogs, Demogorgons, maybe even new creatures we haven't seen yet. Our heroes will use weapons, teamwork, and strategy to survive. Then, the psychic battle with Vecna. 11 and possibly Will using their powers against him while he tries to break them with visions of their worst memories and traumas. I think the climax will involve a choice. Someone will have to make a sacrifice to close the Upside Down permanently. It might be Will using his connection to seal the rift from the inside. It might be 11 giving up her powers to break the link between dimensions. It might be someone dying to provide the others with an opening to strike the final blow. Vecna will be defeated, but the cost will be high. At least one or two main characters will die. The town of Hawkins will be fundamentally changed. The government will try to cover everything up. But our surviving heroes will have each other, and they'll have the truth. Then we'll get an epilogue, probably jumping forward a few years. We'll see where everyone ended up. Mike and 11 probably together. Lucas at Max's side if she survived, or honoring her memory if she didn't. Dustin carrying on Steve's legacy if Steve died. Will finally free from the Upside Down's influence, able to be himself. Joyce and Hopper together, trying to build a normal life. The very final scene will probably be a quiet moment. Maybe the surviving core group gathering for one last Dungeons and Dragons game, honoring those they lost. Maybe a shot of the Reformed Party riding bikes through Hawkins, showing that even though they've grown up and things have changed, their friendship endures. Maybe 11 looking at a photo of everyone together, smiling through tears before closing her eyes and finally just being Jane, a normal girl with a family and a future. The Duffer Brothers have said they wrote the final scene years ago and never changed it. Whatever they have planned, it's been the destination from the beginning. I trust them to stick the landing because they've been planning this story as a whole from day one. They know where it's going. They know what it means. And while I'm absolutely terrified of the heartbreak we're about to experience, I'm also excited to see how it all comes together. The spin-off hints and beyond, Stranger Things. Before we wrap up, let's briefly touch on what might come after Stranger Things ends. The Duffer Brothers have confirmed they're working on spin-off projects set in the same universe. During Netflix's preview events, Matt Duffer teased, quote, "There are more Stranger Things stories to tell and in the works. It's a bit early at this point to talk about them, but we're deeply involved in everyone." He emphasized that anything with the Stranger Things name needs to be high quality, not repetitive, and needs to have a reason to exist that blazes its own path. So they're not just churning out sequels for money. They want spin offs that add something meaningful to the universe. The most popular spin off theory involves a prequel about the Rainbow Room and Brenner's experiments in the 70s and 80s. We could follow other numbered subjects, see how the program operated, explore how Henry Creel became Subject 1. This would allow the show to bring back young Eleven in flashbacks while introducing new characters. Another possibility is a sequel set years after the main series, following a new generation dealing with residual effects of the Upside Down. Maybe the rift in Hawkins was sealed, but created thin spots elsewhere in the world where dimensional boundaries are weak. New heroes would have to deal with these threats. Some fans want a spin-off focused on Erica Sinclair, Lucas's brilliant little sister, who's proven herself capable of handling the supernatural. She could be the main character of a new party, carrying the legacy forward. Whatever the spin-offs are, they'll probably connect to the main series in subtle ways, honoring the original story while telling something new. The Duffers understand what made Stranger Things special, and they're not going to dilute that by oversaturating the market. Crossing's the emotional core, and what really matters, as we've explored all these theories about deaths and monsters and battles, I think it's important to remember what Stranger Things has always really been about. At its core, it's not actually about the Upside Down or psychic powers or government conspiracies. It's about friendship. It's about growing up. It's about finding family in unexpected places and holding on to love even when the world gets dark and scary. Every supernatural threat in the series has been defeated the same way, not with powers or weapons, but with connection. Eleven saved the day in Season 1 because of her bond with Mike and the boys. Will survived Season 2 because his mother refused to give up on him. The Mind Flayer was defeated in Season 3 through sacrifice born of love. And Max escaped Vecna in Season 4 because her friends literally pulled her back with music and happy memories. The final battle won't really be about destroying Vecna or closing gates. It'll be about our heroes choosing each other, choosing hope, choosing to keep fighting even when all seems lost. That's the real power in Stranger Things, not telekinesis or psychic abilities, but the strength that comes from knowing you're not alone. These characters have been through hell together. They've watched friends die, faced monsters that should be impossible, lost innocence and childhood, but they've done it as a family, the party as they call themselves, and that bond is what will carry them through the finale. So yes, we'll probably lose some beloved characters. Yes, there will be tears and heartbreak and moments that devastate us. But I believe the ending will ultimately be hopeful, because that's what Stranger Things has always been. A reminder that even in the darkest times, even when monsters are real and evil exists, friendship and love can light the way home. Closing thoughts on the mystery. Well, my dear friends, we've covered an enormous amount of ground tonight, from Will's potential hidden powers to the true nature of the Upside Down, from heartbreaking death predictions to Max's fate in her coma, from time travel theories to the government conspiracy, from the Mind Flayer debate to how the series might actually end. These are just some of the major theories circulating in the fandom as we count down the days until November 26th. What's beautiful about this show is how it's created a community of people who care deeply about these characters and this story. We've been theorizing and discussing and analyzing for almost a decade now. Stranger Things became a cultural phenomenon not just because of its quality, but because it invited us to participate, to speculate, to get invested. And now it's ending. In less than a year, we'll have all the answers. We'll know who lives and who dies, what the Upside Down really is, how Vecna is defeated, whether our heroes can truly save Hawkins. We'll know if Will gets his happy ending, if Max wakes up from her coma, if Steve survives, if Eleven can finally just be a normal girl. Some theories will be proven right. Many will be wrong. The Duffer Brothers will surprise us, hopefully in the best possible ways. But whatever happens, we'll experience it together as a fandom one last time, and that's pretty special. If you're new to the channel, or if you've been here for a while, thank you for joining me on this deep dive into Stranger Things theories. I'll definitely be back with more videos as we get closer to the premiere, covering new trailers, analyzing each episode as it drops, and processing the emotional devastation of the finale together. Before you drift off to sleep tonight, maybe think about what ending you'd like to see. Which theories do you believe? Which characters do you think will make it? What do you hope the Duffer Brothers have planned? Let those thoughts carry you into dreams, and maybe, just maybe, you'll find yourself wandering the familiar streets of Hawkins, riding bikes with the party, hearing Kate Bush on a Walkman, standing at the edge of the woods where it all began. Until next time, stay curious, keep theorizing, and remember that no matter what happens in Season 5, the real magic of Stranger Things was the friends we made along the way. Sweet dreams, dear adventurers, and may your nightmares always be defeated by the power of friendship and really good music. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Stranger Things Season 5 theories and want to support the channel, please hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep the faith, believe in your friends, and never stop running up that hill. Good night.